Congratulations, Your Majesty, it's a little princess. I was held aloft, and a sharp smack landed upon my backside. The sting elicited a wail from my lips. What on earth is happening? Wasn't I laboring late into the night on a project? How have I suddenly transformed into an infant? With great effort, I pried open my heavy eyelids. In my blurred vision, an elderly visage, marked by deep wrinkles, came into view. It was an old nurse clad in traditional garb, deftly swaddling me in a blanket. The seventh princess is truly beautiful, resembling the emperor to a remarkable degree, she remarked, her words dripping with flattery. Seventh princess? The emperor? Could it be that I have traversed time? Moreover, I have been reborn as a newborn babe? Another princess? A deep, icy male voice interjected from nearby. What use do I have for so many princesses? They are far too young for marriage alliances. I strained to turn my eyes, catching sight of a tall man adorned in a resplendent yellow dragon robe. His countenance was austere, radiating an aura that warned others to keep their distance. Goodness, is this my father? While undeniably handsome, his blatant preference for sons is utterly unacceptable. Your Majesty, please temper your anger. The Lady Lan is in delicate health. It is a feat in itself that she has safely given birth. The old nurse replied, trembling with trepidation. Yan Shao let out a cold huff. Useless. Since she is a princess, we shall adhere to the old customs and hand her over to. Panic surged within me. By the look of things, I was to be casually handed off to some concubine for rearing. Though I was oblivious to the specifics of these old customs, my extensive viewing of court dramas had taught me enough. A neglected princess often fared worse than a mere dog in the imperial harem. Despot.
Fool.
This malicentric ideology is abhorrent. It is no wonder your kingdom will fall. I raged internally, but all that escaped my lips were the sounds of my infantile cries. Yan Zhao's body stiffened as he narrowed his eyes, striding towards me with purpose. In my mind, I cursed. What are you staring at? Never seen a beauty before. This tyrant's reign will eventually meet its end. The corners of Yan Zhao's mouth twitched slightly, betraying a flicker of interest. He reached out and poked my cheek. This little one is rather intriguing.
Hey.
Who are you calling little one? I graduated from a prestigious university in my past life. I rolled my eyes internally. Your Majesty, regarding the upbringing of the seventh princess. A courtier ventured cautiously. Yan Shao pondered for a moment. The seventh princess shall be named Yan Qingqing and will be nurtured by Lady Lan. Everyone present was taken aback, myself included. What is happening? Has this tyrant suddenly had a change of heart? Just moments ago, he was lamenting the fact that I was a princess. How has he become so generous all of a sudden? Yan Shao cast a long, scrutinizing glance in my direction before turning to depart. I was cradled by the old nurse, who conveyed me to the side of Lady Lan, now referred to as Lady Lan Zhao. I lifted my gaze. The woman reclined against the headboard. Although her complexion was pale, her beauty remained striking. She gingerly took me from the nurse's arms, her eyes brimming with affection. My little princess. Her fingers brushed gently across my cheek. A wave of emotion surged through me. In my previous life, I was an orphan, never having tasted the warmth of a mother's love. To think that in this ancient realm, I would find a mother. Your Majesty has named the seventh princess Yan Qingqing and has elevated your status, allowing you to continue raising her, the old nurse chimed, eager to please. Lady Lan Zhao paused for a moment, then offered a bittersweet smile. What is the emperor's intention? Could it be that? Her words trailed off, but I could discern the worry etched in her expression. It seemed the tyrant had not shied away from nefarious deeds in the past. Such sudden benevolence was indeed alarming. My lady, do not overthink. The seventh princess is undeniably adorable. It is only natural for the emperor to take a liking to her, the nurse urged. The gentle mother shook her head, her gaze tenderly fixed upon me. Regardless of the emperor's motives, Qingqing is my daughter, and I shall protect her without fail. Her words warmed my heart. It appeared that this mother truly cherished me. With that in mind, I resolved to protect her in return. I extended my tiny hand, grasping her finger, and beamed a toothless smile. Oh, dear, the seventh princess has smiled. Truly clever and bright, the nurse exclaimed dramatically. I lay in my cradle, unable to restrain myself from stuffing my chubby little hands into my mouth to gnaw at them. Your Highness, today marks the seventh princess's full moon celebration. Shall she wear this auspicious gown? An elderly lady unfurled a delicate dress embroidered with golden threads. My mother gently lifted me into her arms, saying, "Our dear Qingqing is truly remarkable. She has already reached her full moon. Your Highness, Lady Shui has sent a longevity lock," a palace maid announced, entering with a brocade box. My mother opened the box, and I was momentarily blinded by the glimmer of the golden lock. Goodness, it looked exceedingly valuable. My mother teased me with the lock, asking, "Qingqing, do you like it?" I stared at the longevity lock, which seemed more aptly described as a death lock. Isn't Lady Shui that woman who once incapacitated a palace made for an entire month? Surely the large gold lock isn't intended to strangle me and usurp my feeding bottle. Cough, cough. A sudden cough echoed from the entrance. I turned to see the tyrant father standing there, accompanied by a throng of concubines, with the one adorned in pearls and jade most likely being the empress. The entire room fell into disarray as everyone knelt. Yan Xiao waved his hand dismissively and strode directly to me, his gaze enigmatic. "I have come to see the seventh princess." I couldn't help but mentally exclaim, "Is the tyrant on some medication today? This is quite generous." Yan Zhao's eyes twitched slightly. "Your Majesty, I find the seventh princess to be exceptionally lovely," the empress remarked, her lacquered nails grazing my cheek. "Perhaps she should be entrusted to Sister Shui for nurturing. Her palace has the most competent wet nurses." My body bristled with alarm. What the heck? Is this nail polish meant to mar my beauty? Wait, if I'm handed over to Lady Shui, wouldn't that mean my premature demise? My humble opinion is that Qingqing is still quite young. My mother bravely declined. The empress shot her a piercing glance. Is Lady Lan questioning my authority? I inwardly cursed. "You white lotus. You appear virtuous on the outside while secretly skimming off the monthly allowances of the other concubines." Yan Zhao's expression turned icy. "Your Majesty, the seventh princess is due for her feeding." My mother cradled me, skillfully sidestepping the empress's remark. Yan Xiao cast a meaningful glance in my direction. "I have heard from the Bureau of Destiny that the seventh princess possesses a unique fate and must be raised by her biological mother until she comes of age." Upon hearing this, Lady Shui nearly crushed the handkerchief in her grasp. I was dumbfounded. What on earth? Is the tyrant actually being reasonable today? Yan Xiao cleared his throat. "Lady Lan shall be bestowed the title of Lan Xiui and reside in the Changchun Palace." Lady Shui nearly dropped her teacup. I couldn't help but giggle. Haha, that slap to the face came as swiftly as a whirlwind. But why is the tyrant suddenly turning against the empress? Does he already suspect her true nature? My thoughts were interrupted by a more pressing concern. Isn't Changchun Palace the closest to the imperial study? Will the tyrant have to pass by my residence every day? Qingqing seems quite pleased, Yan Xiao remarked, poking my dimple. I nodded vigorously in my mind. Of course. Proximity brings advantage. I will bask by the window daily, and I am certain he will come to play. Not that, but to visit me and my mother. I must become the favored princess. Proclaim the edict. Yan Xiao twirled the jade ring on his finger. From this day forth, the seventh princess shall be presented daily to the imperial study to pay her respects to me. With a snap, the empress's protective facade shattered. I was bubbling with happiness. Such a delightful turn of events. Fear not, tyrant father. Once I can speak, I shall indoctrinate you with the core values of socialism, turning you into a wise ruler. I was carried into the imperial study, where I had been presented for a week to pay my respects to the tyrant father. Whispers spread throughout the harem that the seventh princess was likely to be named the crown princess soon. Your Majesty, urgent news from the south. A sweating guard burst in. The Li River has breached its banks. 3 provinces and 12 counties are affected. I let out a bubble of excitement. Oh my! This ineffective disaster relief will surely incite a peasant uprising. Alas, will I not have the chance to grow up before becoming a princess of a fallen kingdom? Yan Xiao unfurled the memorial, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. Chancellor, what is your opinion? A white-bearded old man in a purple robe stepped forward. I believe we should open the granaries and distribute 3 shung of millet to each household daily. I rolled my eyes internally. Goodness, 3 shung of millet is hardly enough to feed a bird. Moreover, this old fox will skim off the transport funds. By the time it reaches the victims, it will be insufficient even for porridge. Your Majesty, I am willing to oversee this personally, the Chancellor proclaimed passionately. I desperately kicked my legs. Absolutely not. If that old man goes, he'll likely implement labor for food schemes, forcing the victims to repair his estate. We should send troops to escort the grain, set up porridge kitchens, and have the victims repair the irrigation works in exchange for food. The tyrant lightly tapped the table. I have decided to dispatch the Tiger Ben army to transport the grain, establish official porridge kitchens along the way, and recruit the victims to construct levees, with daily wages of 31 and 2 meals provided. The Chancellor's face paled instantly. Your Majesty, that would incur excessive costs. From my private treasury, Yan Shao decreed with finality. As for the overseer, I appoint you, Li Aiqing. A dark-faced military officer stepped forward, brimming with enthusiasm. I am here. You shall go. Remember, I want to see every grain reach the victims' bellies. I applauded inwardly. Well done. Wait, why is the tyrant so sensible today? He possesses the potential to be a wise ruler. Yan Shao pretended to study the memorial, the corners of his mouth curving upward. Why is Qingqing suddenly so cheerful? He set the memorial down and gently pinched my cheek. I beamed a toothless grin. My thoughts raced. I wonder if the tyrant father knows that the Chancellor's hidden compartments contain ledgers of bribes from various officials? I yawned and slowly closed my eyes. Yan Shao instructed someone to return me to Chongqing Palace. Your Majesty, I wish to visit the Chancellor's residence to admire the chrysanthemums. The Chancellor's legs quaked. Your Majesty, the chrysanthemums in my garden have not yet bloomed. Yan Zhao's smile did not reach his eyes. No matter. I delight in viewing flowers that have yet to blossom. That evening, the Chancellor surrendered all his household assets to the National Treasury, seeking to atone for his misdeeds. Under the lamplight, Yan Shao opened the 7th Princess's Heart's Record book. Dipping a brush in red powder, he circled the words demon and auspicious before crossing them out entirely. Ultimately, he penned, National Master. I rested on my mother's shoulder, cradled in the imperial garden under the sun, having just celebrated my 3rd birthday. To others, I was a prodigy. Ordinary children at 3 wouldn't be able to recite the 3-character classic. Your Highness, General Xia's wife has brought her young son to pay their respects. A palace, maid whispered. My ears perked up. General Xia? Wasn't he the loyal subject guarding the northern frontier? He would later be executed by the tyrant on charges of treason. Let them come in, my mother said gently, arranging my tousled hairstyle. In the distance, a striking woman approached, accompanied by a boy of 5 or 6 years. Though clad in fine robes, the boy exuded an undeniable vigor, like a sword yet to be unsheathed. This humble servant pays her respects to Lady Shui, the general's wife bowed. The boy stared intently at me, suddenly proclaiming mother. This little sister is truly beautiful. My cheeks flushed. Goodness, what a charmer at such a young age. My mother smiled and gently shook my little hand. I recalled the original story. The young master of the Xie family. Wasn't he the same boy who, at 14, stormed the battlefield, making the northern weep, only to meet a tragic end in prison? Just as I was lost in thought, raucous laughter erupted nearby. 3 elegantly dressed young men approached. The leader raised his chin. Oh, isn't this the little bastard from the Xie family? Your Highness, please be cautious with your words. Lady Xie shielded her son behind her. The 3rd prince not only failed to restrain himself, but also reached out to push Xiaolin Yuan. Isn't your father just a doorman? A pebble the size of a walnut struck the 3rd prince squarely on the forehead. A profound silence enveloped the room, for I was the one who had thrown the stone. Yen Sansui Qingqing. Qingqing. My mother gasped, covering her mouth in astonishment. I brandished my tiny fist and exclaimed, bad. Hit. My heart roared. How dare you bully the future war god? If only I weren't such a little shrimp right now. I would surely toss you into the water with a shoulder throw. Preposterous. The tyrant father's voice suddenly emerged from behind the rockery. Everyone fell to their knees in disarray, except for me, who remained defiantly waving my arms. Yan Shao strode over, first casting a glance at the bump on the 3rd prince's forehead, then at the stone in my hand, before finally settling his gaze on Xiaolin Yuan. Your Majesty, please forgive her. Qingqing did not mean it, my mother pleaded, her voice tinged with tears. Inside, I screamed, those 3 little rascals started it. General Xie will one day safeguard half the kingdom for you. If you do not discipline these miscreants now, they will become the parasites that ruin the nation. Yan Xiao raised an eyebrow, turning to inquire of Xie Linyuan, "Can you recite the art of war?" Xie Linyuan held his head high, replying yes. "Good." Yan Xiao nodded in satisfaction. From this day forth, Xie Linyuan shall enter the palace as the seventh princess's companion.
Puffed.
I accidentally sprayed my father with a mouthful of saliva. What is happening? Is the tyrant father assigning me a child husband? Father. The third prince protested vehemently. He is just a son of a martial man. Why should he go back and write out the Analects 20 times as punishment? Yan Xiao coldly interjected.
Do it now.
Once everyone had dispersed, the tyrant father pinched my cheek. Does Ching Ching like that boy from the Xie family? I blinked my big eyes and feigned innocence. Oh my, yet inside, I was screaming. I'm only 3 years old. Is it really appropriate to ask if I like boys? But he is the young hero who will stand guard at Yanmen Pass for 30 days in the future. How can I save the Xie family when he ends up dying unjustly? Yan Xiao regarded me thoughtfully for a moment before turning to leave. The young lad was brought to the imperial study, where he found several military books and a custom-made small wooden sword laid upon the table. His Majesty says, "The young master shall play with the seventh princess each morning and study martial arts here each afternoon," the eunuch respectfully announced. A few days later, Xie Linyuan scratched his head in confusion. Wasn't he supposed to be the companion reader? Why had the roles reversed? Moreover, every time he encountered a bottleneck in his training, that sweet-smelling little princess would coincidentally be nearby, muttering strange phrases. The lever principle is about having the fulcrum close to the point of effort, I said while nibbling on my fingers. Within days, Xie Linyuan's marksmanship made remarkable progress. I tiptoed, leaning over the table in the imperial study, my small hand grasping a brush, scribbling away on paper. My 5-year-old body was hardly cooperative. Writing looked like abstract art. "Seventh princess, it's time for your meal," the wet nurse gently called out. "Just a moment," I replied, not lifting my head as I continued to write, mentally calculating the expenditures of the imperial kitchen over the past 6 months. I was a walking audit bureau, ha ha ha. The Minister of Revenue knelt on the ground. Trembling, "I pay my respects to your Majesty." The tyrant father slammed the account book down before him. "I want to see how the imperial kitchen spends 3,000 taels of silver each month." I glanced up briefly, scoffing internally. Ginger purchased at 2 taels per pound? Ridiculous. It's only 51 on the market. And the sea cucumbers, the quantities don't add up. At least 30% is pocketed by the Minister of Revenue. And today's records show he is splitting profits with the head of the imperial kitchen. The tyrant father's fury erupted. "Strip this scoundrel of his official robes. Give him 20 lashes." "Your Majesty, I'm wronged," the Minister of Revenue cried out, though he was clearly filled with guilt. As his garments were stripped away, the profit-sharing records were also uncovered. Yan Xiao kicked the Minister of Revenue to the ground. "Is this what you call being wronged?" The Minister of Revenue was so frightened he nearly wet himself. I pinched my nose in disgust. "You think you can fool me with accounting fraud? In our place, even publicly listed companies would be stripped bare." "Your Majesty, please see reason." The head of the imperial kitchen desperately bowed his head. "This is a frame-up." Yan Xiao let out a cold laugh, lifting me onto his lap. "Bring forth the residences of the head of the imperial kitchen and the Minister of Revenue for inspection." I had just finished my dinner when I was carried back to the imperial study. The tyrant father really can't bear to be away from me. Having a clingy father is quite troublesome. As I swayed my head, Yan Xiao placed me on his lap, pinching my cheek. "Come, Ching Ching. Let us review the military reports together." I rolled my eyes adorably, but I'm only 5. What can I possibly understand? In truth, I quickly skimmed through them. Border shepherds report that prairie tribes are gathering, yet the commanding general reports everything is normal. I lamented internally. The general has been bribed. In 3 months, the Northern D will breach the defenses and strike at the heart. We are perpetually dancing on the edge of ruin. In the age of cold weapons, the best strategy against nomadic tribes is to fortify the walls and clear the fields, employing crossbow formations and shortening the distances between beacon towers. As it stands, we are unable to relay warnings in time. "Your Majesty, Ching Ching, it's time for bed," my mother announced. "Mother is here to take me." Oh yay! Finally off duty. La la la, let the tyrant father pull an all-night on his own. Yan Xiao sighed, exasperated. This little cotton-padded jacket was quite irritating. I followed my mother back to Chongqing Palace. Yan Xiao spread out the latest confidential reports from the northern frontier, his gaze growing colder. Summon the commander of the Hu Ben army. He then wrote in the 7th Princess's voice record book, predicting the method of the Northern D invasion aligns with intelligence from the Dark Sentinels. Outside the palace, a squad of armored soldiers gathered discreetly. The sound of hooves muffled by cloth vanished silently into the night. I leaned against the window of the carriage, watching the dust swirl on the official road outside. My heart raced with excitement like a 200-pound child. For my 10th birthday, the tyrant father promised to take me on a secret excursion. Father, that porridge stall looks so lively. I tugged at the tyrant father's sleeve. Today, he wore the garb of an ordinary wealthy merchant, yet the aura of menace was impossible to conceal. Let us take a look. The tyrant father, now to be addressed as Lord Yen, signaled for the carriage to halt. A long queue formed in front of the porridge stall, most of the patrons gaunt and emaciated refugees. A pang of sorrow struck my heart. The famine, lightly brushed over in history books, weighs like a mountain on the shoulders of the common people. Yan Xiao cast a glance down at me. I shook my head and sighed. This rice is surely mixed with half chaff. In modern times, it would have been reported to the Consumer Association. On the return journey, I counted on my fingers, mentally calculating the finances. To resolve the famine, merely distributing grain will not suffice. Sustainable development must be initiated. First, promote potato cultivation, which yields 5 times that of wheat per mu. Secondly, develop water conservancy projects, drawing inspiration from the Dejianjian model. Finally, establish state-run textile factories to provide income for women. Suddenly, the tyrant father spoke. Ching Ching, what do you think about setting up welfare centers across the country to teach the common people to plant new crops? I widened my eyes. Wasn't this precisely what I had just thought? Truly my father, always in sync with me. Yan Zhao's brow twitched sharply. Yet, having grown accustomed to such heretical remarks over the years, he continued, Father is amazing. We could also have the imperial physicians conduct regular free clinics and establish literacy classes. My excitement grew with each word. A flicker of fondness crossed Yan Zhao's eyes before his expression hardened once more. Months later, welfare centers were established nationwide. I received a basket of potatoes personally cultivated by the tyrant father. They were rather ugly, small, and shriveled. Nevertheless, it was remarkable for an emperor to personally engage in farming. The young general frowned deeply before the sand table. The Northern D people unexpectedly altered their tactics, evading all ambushes, as if endowed with precognitive abilities. Report. The enemy has launched a surprise attack on the Western Front. Xia Linyuan abruptly raised his head. The Western Front was a location the 7th Princess had casually remarked upon during her last play in the sand, suggesting it was perfect for a surprise assault. Relay the order. Execute Plan Number 7. Plan Number 7 was a pocket formation tactic that the 7th Princess had nonchalantly mentioned while enjoying pastries on a previous occasion. That night, the Northern D suffered a crushing defeat. Standing upon the city wall, Xia Linyuan gazed into the distance at the flickering flames. A sudden curiosity surged within him. What might that little girl, who loved to arrange pastries as fortresses on the sand table, be doing at this very moment? Within Fingyi Palace, the queen listened intently as her confidant reported. The 7th Princess not only participates in state affairs, but even the young man from the Xia family has achieved numerous military accolades. Yesterday, His Majesty even stated in court that women too can hold office. A monstrous aberration. The queen slammed her hand on the table. Go inform the chancellor to proceed as planned. 2 days later, a nursery rhyme echoed throughout the capital. The star of the 7 maidens knows the mandate of heaven, brings chaos to the court, a disaster star descends. The Astronomical Bureau reported the appearance of a malevolent star next to the Ziwei star. I found myself under house arrest in Chongqing Palace. Yan Xiao fixed his gaze on 2 memorials laid out on his desk. One was a joint petition from the chancellor and numerous officials demanding the eradication of the malevolent forces. The other was an urgent dispatch from Xia Linyuan, heralding a victory from the northern border. The candle flickered, sputtering sparks. Yen Xiao took up his brush and inscribed on the latest page of the seventh princess's heartfelt records. A monstrous aberration? Or an auspicious omen? The ink was barely dry when he angrily struck through it and rewrote, "My daughter." I counted the 20th bird to fly past the window. This marked the 7th day of my confinement. 3 layers of guards surrounded Chongqing Palace, preventing even a fly from entering. Naturally, news could not escape. "Your Highness, what is the matter with you?" a maidservant of the Empress suddenly screamed. I leapt up in alarm and dashed into the inner chamber. There, I beheld my mother, her complexion ashen and streaked with purple, lying on the bed with white froth at her lips. "Summon the imperial physician. Quickly." My voice quivered with urgency. I placed my fingers on my mother's wrist. An irregular heartbeat, constricted pupils, these were symptoms of toxic mushroom poisoning. "Princess, the imperial physician has stated he is off duty today," the young maid sobbed as she returned. Rage coursed through me, shaking my very being. What a cunning queen, even corrupting the physician. As my mother's breathing grew increasingly faint, I commanded, "Everyone out. I must pray for my mother's recovery. No one is to disturb me." Once the maids retreated, I swiftly retrieved my secret toolbox from beneath the bed. The herbs and instruments I had secretly gathered over the past 6 months were finally of use. First, I must induce vomiting. Activated charcoal and atropine analogs are essential. I muttered to myself as I frantically ground mandrake seeds. "Ching ching," my mother weakly called out. "Do not fear, mother. You simply ingested some unclean mushrooms. You will be well shortly." I stifled my tears as I administered the antidote I had concocted into her mouth. Suddenly, a synchronized sound of kneeling echoed from outside. "We pay our respects to your majesty." Why had the tyrant father arrived at this moment? Yen Xiao stood at the threshold, surveying the disarray within the room. Pestle, charcoal powder, and overturned porcelain bowls, alongside the little girl smeared in soot. My voice trembled. "Father, mother." Yen Xiao strode forward, his gaze sweeping over Lan Xiui's pale features before landing on the bowl of green liquid at the bedside. He recalled the report from the secret guards. "The 7th princess has been secretly hoarding medicinal herbs and grinding unknown powders at night. What did you give your mother?" I fell to my knees. "It is an antidote. Mother has been poisoned by the poisonous umbrella mushroom. If we do not act swiftly, it will be too late." Yen Zhao's pupils constricted. The poisonous umbrella mushroom? Such a secret court remedy that even the imperial hospitals scarcely knew of it. "Your Majesty." The chief physician hurried in. Upon observing Lan Xiui's condition, his expression shifted dramatically. This resembles investigate." Yen Xiao uttered a single command. As the physician scrambled to consult, the tyrant father dragged me into a side hall. "Explain." He seated himself in the Grand Master's chair, tapping his fingers against the armrest. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I had revealed my medical knowledge. Surely, this would seal my fate as a monstrous aberration? When I was young, I dreamt of an old immortal with a white beard who taught me many medical techniques. I blinked innocently, fabricating a tale. The immortal said I am the reincarnation of the 9 heavens Xian Nu, destined to assist a wise ruler. Crack. The armrest splintered under his grip. I recoiled slightly. "If you do not believe me, you have an arrow wound on your left shoulder. It aches on rainy days. In the 3rd drawer of your writing desk lies a volume of the 7th princess's sayings, and also that you can hear me." Before I could finish, the tyrant father clamped his hand over my mouth, his eyes sharp enough to kill. "Who told you?" I pointed skyward, then indicated my heart. Finally, he released me, exhaling deeply. "Since when?" "From the day I was born, I confess sincerely. When you pinched my cheek, I cursed you as a tyrant in my heart." "Ha!" The tyrant father chuckled, then quickly adopted a serious demeanor. "If this matter reaches a third party, I understand. You want to silence me." I raised my hand in oath. "Even mother is unaware." Yen Xiao rubbed his temples. "And what of Cielin Yuan?" "Ah!" I momentarily failed to grasp his meaning. "The one you often think of." "Your future husband." The tyrant father squinted at me. My face flushed crimson. All my youthful infatuations had been laid bare. The young general moved stealthily within the shadows of the palace walls. Upon receiving the news of the 7th princess's house arrest, He was in the midst of military drills and promptly dismounted, returning to the capital alone. Xie Linyuan executed a deft maneuver, leaping onto the roof. Suddenly, he heard a familiar, crisp voice. Xie Linyuan, get down here. His foot slipped, nearly sending him crashing down. Under the moonlight, the seventh princess stood in the courtyard, hands on her hips, with the emperor behind her, wearing a bemused expression. Yan Shao regarded the kneeling young general before him, clad in armor. He was weary and had defied orders to return to the capital. Your crime is worthy of death. Xie Linyuan pressed his forehead to the ground. Indeed, it is. Yan Shao replied coldly. Deserting your post, intruding upon the palace. Each infraction is sufficient for execution. Father. I clung to his arm. Brother Linyuan is only worried about me. And he has just achieved a military victory. Yan Shao raised an eyebrow. Oh, how do you intend to plead for him? I rolled my eyes and whispered in his ear, what if I trade 3 prophecies for his life? First, 2 days hence, the Chancellor will unite with the censorate to impeach you for sheltering a monstrous aberration. Second, the Northern D envoy is en route to the capital, ostensibly seeking peace, but in truth, plotting assassination. Third, I grinned slyly, you shall have a legitimate son next year. Yan Zhao's temple throbbed. The first 2 could be construed as intelligence assessments, but the last one, the Empress had long been confirmed unable to bear children. I stood beside the coiling dragon pillar in the Golden Throne Hall, feeling the piercing gazes of the entire court upon me. Just after my 14th birthday, the Tyrant father had granted me a surprise, permission to participate in state affairs, bestowing upon me the title of Princess Rue. Your Majesty, it is against ancestral precedent for women to engage in governance. The Minister of Rights knelt, bowing his head repeatedly, like a hen pecking for grains. I rolled my eyes internally. Ancestral precedent, your ancestors once dwelled in caves. Why not return to eating raw meat and drinking blood? Ahem. Yan Shao coughed twice from the dragon throne. Princess Rue is well-versed in arithmetic. She will assist the Ministry of Revenue in auditing the accounts. I promptly retrieved a small abacus and demonstrated my skills with a flurry of clicks. Last year, the accounts from the Jiangnan Weaving Bureau exhibited discrepancies. 3,000 bolts of cloud brocade have vanished, equivalent to 98,000 taels of silver. Precisely the cost of the new residence of Minister Li. Minister Li collapsed to the ground, utterly defeated. The court erupted in uproar. After court adjourned, I jubilantly skipped alongside the Tyrant father back to the imperial study. I am Xie Linyuan, here to pay my respects to your Majesty and Princess Rue. The youthful general, still donned in his armor and appearing somewhat disheveled from the journey, could not conceal the aura of valor that enveloped him. 3 years of guarding the borders had honed him into an even more statuesque figure. The scar etched across his brow only accentuated his fierce demeanor. My heart skipped a beat. Rise. I have a memorial to present. Xie Linyuan knelt on one knee, offering a letter of petition. A great victory in the northern frontier, where we vanquished 30,000 enemies. I seek no reward. Yan Shao raised an eyebrow. Oh, then what do you desire? I wish to request the hand of Princess Rue in marriage. Yan Zhao's countenance darkened at an alarming pace. General Xie, do you know the meaning of the phrase merit that overshadows the monarch? I am willing to return my military insignia. Xie Linyuan lifted his gaze, his eyes ablaze with determination. I only desire to be the prince consort of the princess. Yan Shao narrowed his eyes, his lips pressed into a thin line, a clear harbinger of impending violence. In a moment of impulsive emotion, I burst into tears. Father, he is bullying me. This outburst left Yan Shao momentarily flustered, and Xie Linyuan appeared equally bewildered. The handsome visage that remained unperturbed on the battlefield now bore an expression of alarm. I sobbed dramatically. Brother Linyuan promised to teach me archery. But now he wishes to become a prince consort. He clearly intends to shirk his responsibilities. Yan Shao glanced between me and Xie Linyuan, a sardonic smile playing on his lips. Very well, General Xie, from this day forth, you shall serve as Princess Rue's archery instructor. As for the marriage, it shall be discussed when the princess comes of age. I winked at Xie Linyuan mischievously. The young general's ears flushed crimson, and a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth as he bowed his head. Xie Linyuan stood in the training grounds, watching the figure hastening towards him. Skirts held high. 3 years had transformed the little girl considerably, yet the glint of mischief in her eyes remained unchanged. Master, I elongated my tone playfully. Princess, please conduct yourself with dignity, Xia Linyuan replied sternly, handing me a wooden bow. After a brief practice, my arms grew weary, unable to lift any further. Yet, the young general pressed on with unyielding determination. I began to question if he truly held affection for me. Princess, continue your practice. Shoot 50 more arrows. I rolled my eyes and swiftly changed the subject. General Xie, do you think establishing a coal briquette workshop at the border would make winter easier for the soldiers? Xia Linyuan paused in surprise. Coal briquettes? Was this yet another of her eccentric ideas? I am but a simpleton, unaware of what coal briquettes are. I grinned and pulled him closer, sketching a diagram in the sand. It's about extracting coal from the mines and using it in this manner to increase efficiency fivefold. The young general's gaze fell upon the fluttering hem of my skirt. He found himself curious about this little princess who could so effortlessly turn whimsical ideas into reality. Did a part of his heart hold space for affection towards her? Yen Xiao reviewed the clandestine report delivered by the Shadow Guard. The Khan of Beatty had secretly met with the envoy of Daliang, with the envoy bearing the token of the Prime Minister's residence. Just as Qingqing had foretold, events were unfolding as anticipated. Yen Xiao tapped the table lightly. What has General Xie taught Princess Rue today? Your Majesty, the princess has learned archery and discussed the production methods of coal briquettes. Yen Xiao raised an eyebrow. Briquettes? Coal? Surely, these were remnants of that girl's previous life? Issue a decree. From this day forth, Princess Rue may summon 10 craftsmen from the Ministry of Works. Additionally, send a team of shadow guards to monitor the Prime Minister's residence, particularly for any correspondence. I burst into the imperial study, clutching a stack of account books. The old fox, upon seeing me, immediately donned a fade of feigned innocence. I deliberately piled the books atop the table. The topmost one detailing the logistics of grain supplies to the northern front. The Prime Minister's pupils dilated sharply. Qingqing has arrived. The tyrannical father held the Arabic numeral comparison chart I had prepared. I tugged at his sleeve. Father, I've discovered something rather intriguing. Look at this. I flipped open the account book, pointing at a series of numbers. According to the Prime Minister's reported grain consumption rate, each member of the transport team consumes 18 pounds of grain daily. Are they elephants? The Prime Minister's complexion shifted from red to pale. The princess is but a child and does not understand transportation losses. Then this is even more fascinating. I produced another secret document. Your nephew sent to the northern borders has opened 3 grain shops. I tilted my head. Isn't it the kind that reproduces on its own? The tyrant father chuckled. I recognized this laugh. Last time I saw him smile like that, the dungeons were filled to capacity. The next day, Prime Minister. The tyrant father leisurely rolled up his sleeves. The old fox began to tremble. What punishment is warranted for embezzling military provisions? And what for colluding with foreign enemies? Both offenses shall be punished. Yen Xiao suddenly erupted in anger, slicing through the Prime Minister's belt with his sword. Shouldn't we eradicate his entire clan? I stood before the bronze mirror, clad in bridal attire. Today marked my wedding day with Xia Linyuan. I inhaled deeply and grasped my mother's hand, now Lady Lan. Mother, I am frightened. My silly child, she smiled, stroking my head. Who is it that disguised herself as a boy to accompany His Majesty into battle? Who used gunpowder to frighten away the Northern D army on the battlefield? And now you're afraid? I broke into a smile. Over the past year, I had followed the tyrant father into countless battles, even infiltrating enemy camps. How could I be intimidated by a wedding? Qingqing. The tyrant father appeared at the door. It is time to pay respects to our ancestors at the grand ancestral temple. Before the temple, civil and military officials lined both sides. Xia Linyuan, adorned in celebratory attire, gazed at me with fervent eyes, a smile playing at his lips. Kneel. At the officiant's command, Xia Linyuan and I knelt side by side. By the grace of heaven and the emperor's decree, Princess Rue is exceptionally wise and has achieved remarkable feats. Thus, she is to be wed to the Marquis of the North, Xia Linyuan, who is granted permission to establish a government office and participate in state affairs. As the decree concluded, The court erupted in an uproar. This was not merely a marriage to a princess. It was akin to marrying a prime minister. Your Majesty. The prime minister had been apprehended and his family annihilated. His remaining supporters still dared to stir. A mere glance from Yuan Shao silenced them. My decision is final. He produced a bamboo scroll from his sleeve. This is the constitutional draft that I have co-drafted with Princess Rue. From this day forth, Daliang shall establish a cabinet to govern state affairs. My eyes welled with tears. The late-night discussions, countless arguments, and compromises over the past 6 months had culminated in this document that would alter history. From this day forward, Daliang would no longer be a dynasty ruled by one, but a realm belonging to its countless subjects. Ching-ching. Xia Linyuan discreetly clasped my hand beneath his robe. I have a question that has been on my mind for a decade. Yes. Do you hold affection for me? My dear foolish prince consort. I replied with a sly smile. The red candles flickered brightly. Xia Linyuan gently lifted my veil, revealing a pair of eyes that sparkled like stars. Ching-ching. His voice was slightly hoarse. I retrieved a scroll from beneath my pillow. Husband, this is the equality marriage contract I drafted. The first clause, no concubines. The second clause, no deceit. The third clause. Xia Linyuan chuckled, snatching it from my grasp and tossing it aside. I shall add one more clause. He leaned down to kiss my chattering lips. For all eternity, you shall be my only one. Yuan Shao stood before the Hall of Supreme Harmony, watching the sun rise. 10 years had slipped away like a fleeting shadow. The infant who once cursed him as a tyrant had now grown capable of sharing the burden of governance. Your Majesty. News from the border. The Shadow Guard presented a military report. The honeycomb crossbow improved by Princess Rue has decisively defeated the Northern D. The Khan has submitted a surrender document. Yuan Shao chuckled softly. The honeycomb crossbow? Surely, this was yet another of Ching-Ching's ingenious ideas. He turned astride towards the imperial study, where the latest issue of the Daliang Gazette lay on the table. This newspaper, which I had founded, disseminated the edicts of the court throughout the land. In the outskirts of the capital, the newly established Women's Academy resonated with the sound of eager students reading aloud. Your Majesty, it is time for your meal, the eunuch gently reminded. Let us deliver it to Princess Rue's residence. I shall go and pay a visit to my granddaughter. The inaugural firework of the new year blossomed in the night sky. The grand dynasty of Daliang is poised to embrace its most resplendent chapter. The end.